everyone. Welcome to the Anna Lindsay Show. I am your host. You know, I am here bringing you awesome guests. And today I am super excited because I have my dear friend Ronald Brown with me home. Oh my goodness. I'm always ecstatic when I get a chance to talk to home. How are you doing, Ron?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm blessed. Just
Right.
working hard and just trying to stay focused on the stuff that I'm doing here in the community with what we got going on.
I love it. I love it. I am so again just excited about having you here because your journey is, man, I tell you, you've gone through some things in life uh
Yes, ma'am.
at a young age. Well, I want to talk about it.
Well, I came from, I was born in Columbia,
Right?
where we came from, but I grew up in the area over on the west end of Columbia, Missouri, off of LaSalle Place.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother, she had me when she was 15 years old. So she was pretty young when she had me. I was her first child out of three from my
Okay.
mother. And my father, he was like 9 years older than her, coming home from the military, and he had been in the Vietnam War. And when he came home, they linked up or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
they ended up having me or whatever. And that's how I ended up coming into the Brown family from my father's side. So it was like two different sides of families and the way that they were. And I was really like grew up inside of like the project area with my great grandmother and my mom and all of them. So my situation was a little bit different coming from being raised with them than if I was raised with my father's side. I still have a close relationship with my father's side coming up. But most of my younger years, I was with like my mom and them until I was able to venture off on my own and really build a closer relationship with my daddy's side. But like coming up in the hood with my mom, she was like addicted to drugs and stuff like that. And when I was like probably like 8, 9, 10 years old, I used to have to see her like doing that stuff in front of me, like shooting up with needles in her arm. And what I mean, her mother passed away when she was a kid, so she never really had her mother and never had that mother nurturing or father nurturing. So we was raised by my great grandmother, which was her mother's mom. So
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of hard for me because being raised by my great grandmother and coming back in that era of time, because I was born in 1975. Like my great grandmother, she couldn't read or write for real. She didn't know how to drive. She didn't really know how to do nothing, but she just was always just like real heavy into church. She was a heavy Christian in the church, and she always used to pray over us. And my grandfather, my great grandfather, he worked for the railroad. So back in those days, my grandfather, he was really like the main one that provided, and my grandmother, she just went to church with her church group, and she took care of the house,
Mm-hmm.
kept it clean, cooked, and all that. But as far as like showing us the ropes out in the world, she wasn't able to do that. And my mother was really addicted to drugs real bad. So I just started running out in the community, learning stuff on my own. And that's how I started bumping into getting in trouble with the criminal justice system. So
Mm-hmm.
I started getting in trouble with the criminal justice system at low as 8 years old. And then by the time I was 12 years old, I had done been in so much trouble that the state took me away from my mother, and I had to be placed in like, you know, homes and agencies and stuff like that. So I fought through all that, and then got passed around through different family members on my mother's side, and ultimately I ended up going out on my own when I was like 15 years old, right before I turned 16. Then me and one of my cousins, we started like renting an apartment together. But at that age, by the time I was at that age, I had done already been going through the juvenile system a lot. And I was
Mm-hmm.
already, when I started to jump off the porch and live on my own at 15 years old, was involved with dealing with drugs and using drugs myself too.
Yeah.
So I lived that cycle, really off and on all the way until today, till I got to this point today, and I still deal with the criminal justice system in my life right now today, as I'm making the walk and journey that I'm doing.
Right.
So I'm on pro. I still got to deal with 5 years worth of probation because I caught a case in 2022 after being released from the federal prison the second time for trafficking fentanyl, possession of a firearm with extended clip, methamphetamine, marijuana, and K2. So they had me on trafficking, and I had a career history, and
Hmm.
I was stuck in a position in 2022 to where basically I wasn't really never finna make it out again with my history. And I was so angry in that place, and I started having types of conflict with younger dudes because I'm about to be 51, and I've been through the system longer than some of them guys that I was around, and I had to be put in a hole just so I couldn't be around nobody because I was just going through too much. I was too angry, and I probably would have hurted somebody real bad at that point because I was just basically feeling like my life was over with, and I didn't
Right.
really care about nobody else's. You know what I mean? So, but being in that little room by myself, I had a chance to really cry and think about everything that I've been through. At this point, I had done been to the federal prison twice. I had done lost my mother,
Hmm.
my father, while I was incarcerated. I had done lost my kids to the system and had to fight to get them in custody with some of my family members. So I know that they were still safe and with my family, but they still wasn't with me. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So like I had done been through all that, and I had done been through dealing with heavy addiction throughout my life, from using, starting off with drinking and marijuana to crack cocaine to methamphetamines to heroin, and just trying all different types of drugs, throughout my lifestyle and throughout the times that I was on the streets and incarcerated, but also, through connections, you know what I'm saying, through sides of my family and different stuff like that. We were heavily connected inside of the drug game too. So I always was like distributing large amounts of drugs throughout the community around here, and we was tied in with like Mexicans from the different countries and all this type of stuff like that. Like some of the stuff that people would see, like on some of these TV shows and stuff like that. Now, not to idolize it, but just knowing that I really actually lived this type of life and dealt with some of these situations that I've seen. Like you said, for me to still be alive and free here today is definitely a blessing for sure.
For
Definitely a
sure.
blessing.
Yeah, for sure. Colombia, when you were where, just for the audience, I'm from Colombia. Everybody probably know that now because I mean, hey, home is home. We love home. I was
That's
in
right.
Europe at the time that you were that, and I was hearing a lot when I was living in Europe about how hot the streets were. And of
Yeah,
course, I
most
mean,
definitely.
I remember hearing your name and how you guys were rolling there with the gang violence and just doing a lot, doing a lot.
Mhm.
Why your turnaround now? Do you think that Colombia has again has always just been hot and especially hot then? It's gotten over the years where it hadn't turned around. With you being home now, do you see a turnaround at all?
Man, I'm gonna tell you something. Today, I just got a call today, just right before we started this Zoom meeting, and we got a youngster that just got shot up out of here on the north side, and he's in the hospital right now in critical condition. In critical condition. Then last weekend we had to bury Sweetser Edwards' son, and I know you know Miss
Mhm.
Sweetser Prince or Edwards, that
Yeah,
family, because
I'm
they
sorry.
grew up on my side. Her son blew his brains out,
I'm sorry to hear that.
because he was so stressed out and going through mental health situations and didn't reach out properly to get the help, because a lot of us black men don't know how to do that. It's hard for us because we've been raised with this false pride that we ain't supposed to face our feelings as a person or as
Right,
a man. And that's the reason why we are hold it in and bottle it in. And then now you got groups of people who've been oppressed. And now that's the only way they know how to act is out of anger and all that. And now they killing each other. So when I go back to the era of time, like the older days from like when me being in the streets and coming in the street, it was more unity back then, even though we were doing wrong, we were more trying to build because we didn't have nothing. You know what I'm saying? Somewhere in the process of that and the dysfunction of it all, you know what I'm saying, it turned into where it's turned real violent, and now the era's changed, and these kids is out here killing each other, you know. And I went to the federal penitentiary the first time with like people in the history of our town, like Chris Sled and Wank
Mm-hmm.
and some of these guys that you know. We were like some of the first guys that ever was swept off the streets and were put inside of the federal system with the federal government. You know, there was like a new level of the street life, you know, that we all experienced as men, you know, because for one, we were all young and we were poor. Our parents were drug addicts. We came from having food stamps and no lights on and going through that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Sometimes not even having nothing to eat and even roaches in the house bad. You know,
Right.
like this type of struggle that we went through, you know what I'm saying, as a kid coming from that era was totally different, you know what I'm saying, than what's going on with these kids because we didn't even have no internet or none of that type of stuff.
Right.
You know, I barely can hardly work this stuff now. I'm trying to learn, you know what I mean? Because they only let you learn so much in prison. And you know, I had to go back to school inside the criminal justice system because I had dropped out when I was like 15 or 16 years old. And I went back and I got me a GED, you know, and I went back and I went to college and I got almost my associate's degree in business management. I've done like all type of certifications through the state to become certified as a Missouri peer specialist support to go back and help these guys through my lived experience. And I got a business license through the state of Missouri, and I got a 501c3 through the federal government, which makes my organization now that I can operate as a nonprofit and a business, so I can be able to go back and do the community work, you know, and partner with other agencies. So throughout all this and going through these steps, and getting myself to a point as a man after I done went through so much pain to even take the steps to even try to educate myself more
Mm-hmm.
so I can try now to apply it and then try to see if I can help somebody. I've only been out of prison 1 year, and right now I just talked to the director of the Office of Violence Prevention and the head of probation and parole that's over all the parole officers here in Boone County, and I'm on probation and parole. For
Mm-hmm.
me to mentor two guys that they just let out on probation that was associated with a murder. So to me, that's powerful, you
Yeah.
know, coming from where I come from. And I'm trying to get to the point to where I can influence some of the other guys who came up in this community and been through the same stuff to help me push this movement because we still losing kids rapidly and ain't nobody trying to help stand with me on something that matters. And the thing that's sad about it is all these people's families are connected to each other in some type of way, or we
Yeah.
know each other. So, you know, it ain't like
It's,
we in New York or California or something like that. It's just real small here.
yeah. It's from what I understand, like you said, there is like especially in certain areas, just shootings all the time. I just didn't know. I'm not there, so I just wasn't sure if it was still if it was relevant to in comparison to where when you were actually out there. How is it different than now? And you explained that it's much different because it's like
Mhm.
it's just a whole different dynamic going on. Why you could have gotten out and just lived your life? Why did you decide to, and when did it happen? Decide to reach back and help others? Why did you decide to? Is the first part of that question.
Well, one thing is for all, even when I was in the streets hustling and all that stuff, I was always closely associated with the nonprofit work and helping with it because my uncle Glenn Cobbins did it for a
Mm-hmm.
long time, and
Yeah.
he was married to my father's sister and has three kids
Mm-hmm.
by her. So when
Mm-hmm.
he came home from prison in like 1996, and he almost landed in federal prison for a large amount of time, and ended up getting a deal to go to this long term treatment place in the Ozarks, and they give you this recovery treatment for like 1 year, and it's like based around schooling and all type of stuff. You know what I mean? And to help you learn how to deal with like being confronted with, you know, behavior and all that, and handle it like, you know, when you young and when you out in the streets, can't nobody tell you nothing or confront you on nothing. So these programs teach you how to be able to deal with that type of stuff and not be like aggressive to nobody or disrespectful, so you can learn how to handle your emotions and
Mhm.
communicate more properly with people and still deal with how you feel about that situation. Because a lot of us men and even a lot of the people in our black communities, they don't know how to manage their feelings correctly. So if they have an issue with somebody, they don't know how to communicate that issue in a proper manner without it exploding into something that it shouldn't be. And when you look at what happened or why they even had an issue, you'll be like, especially somebody that's more clear minded and more broader thinking than that, you'd be like, I can't believe they even having an argument
Privy.
or a fight over
Right.
that. You know what I'm saying? So it
Right.
shows the level of thinking that, our people are on. You know what I'm saying? And like where they at. And just from what I know, you know what I'm saying, where our history of black people come from, because on my grandfather's side and even on my mother's side, these black men, even though they worked hard and came from out of slavery,
Mhm.
they own houses and land and
Yeah.
property and they had businesses and all that. And now you don't see any of our brothers hardly, learning or understanding how to do that, or even their focus is just not even like towards that. You know what I mean? They like caught up into like the social media and the
Mhm.
music and all that, and they just think that that's the way that they supposed to live. That's supposed to be for entertainment and fun, and you're
Yeah.
supposed to use that to say that, yeah, I went through that struggle, but I know
Yeah.
how to learn how to come away from it and
That's
be
what I was going to
smarter
say
and better.
too. Times different. I was just going to say what you said. Times are different from when our
Yeah.
parents, the examples that we had. So yeah, it is. When did the change come for you?
The change came for me, I'm not gonna lie, when I was locked up, you know what I'm saying? I started losing a lot of uh close little brothers around me and stuff, because we got locked up, me and my brother. And my brother Hart, his name is Malcolm Redmond.
Yeah.
So he had one of the most violentest names in Colombia. And when the federal government indicted us in 2014, and we had a record label and we was doing music with some guys from out of California and Kansas City, Rich the Factor, and some of these famous rappers that's underground rappers that's connected to the streets, through the West Coast and the Midwest and all that. We were doing that, but we were also tied into the Sinaloa cartel, and we was dealing with some Mexicans that was coming up over here from inside the country that wasn't supposed to be over here, and they was supplying us with the drugs and stuff like that. So the dad, was on the run from out of Kansas City, who we were dealing with, his son, and the dad had done killed a bunch of people up in Kansas City or some stuff like that, and he was on the run from the government, and the CIA and stuff was involved and watching, and they just started tracking us and all this type of stuff, and then they locked us up. It was a 27-man indictment. And before we got indicted, we were starting to have problems with people throughout that music label and with my little brother's name in the streets. And it was just all type of shootings and violence and just all type of stuff had went on. My little nephew, my sister's oldest son, he's in state prison right now with 40 years. He caught a body, you know what I mean? And from there, we got indicted. My little brother got 25 years. I got 8 years. My other little cousin, Miles Jordan, we called him Miles Gotti, but he's Marlon Jordan, which
Okay.
was related to the Jordan family who come from
Mhm.
Colombia. They gave him 12 years. And Ken Scott, it's just different names of some of these guys from our community that was connected to that case. Pretty much mostly everybody got between 5 years, almost at the lowest number, all the way up to 25 years. And my little brother got the kingpin status at 25 years. The government, they played a lot of games with our family and stuff, and it's a real detrimental situation when people done had their backs put against the wall for stuff that they didn't do, and they were charged wrong and all that, and people start cooperating and all that, and they know what they're doing because they do this stuff to split up people's families and all that, and they the ones who's supplying the dope inside the country. So to get to the point of where I made the change after we were going through all that and we were dealing with that situation, sitting and fighting that case, and we were figuring out what was going on and how the government and all these people was tied in all this, and we sitting in there fighting that case. My mom came to me before we got sentenced, and she said that she was like, It messed me up. I ain't gonna lie. It messed me up because I'm the oldest and I always was the strongest kid and shit. So she came to me. She was like, "She's not gonna be here when I make it home." So I'm like, "What you talking about? Like, don't be talking like that." I'm telling my mama like, "Don't talk like that. You tripping." So she was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Boy, I'm not playing." She was like, "I'm finna die. I only got this amount of time to live." She was like, "Your little brother, he won't listen. He's crazy like his dad because we got different fathers and stuff." So she was like, "He's not gonna listen. He acts like his daddy. You more like your daddy. You always been the one to like hold us down when I was on these drugs and all that." So before my mom, before all this stuff happened, like 10 years before my mom died, she had pretty much cleaned herself up. She was back like working for the university. She was doing good, back dealing with our family and the grandkids, everything. She was being the woman that she was supposed to be. But we were still living that life, you know what I'm saying? And we got locked up looking at all that time. They wasn't never trying to let us out. And it crushed me because she was like, basically, she put all that weight on my shoulders, saying, like, she's not going to tell my sister and my little brother that she's not finna make it. But she's setting up everything, insurance and all that. But she wanted me to know because she felt like I was her strongest child. But that really messed me up. You know what I'm saying? To this day, I
Yeah.
still trip off that. You know what I mean? And then like going through that situation with the case, it kind of like broke our families apart, here in this community too, because so many people's families went through this and it broke
Mm-hmm.
people's family apart and like the unity that we had in our neighborhoods from going back to the old days. So like while I was up in that place, I lost my mom, my dad, I lost my mom's sister's son got murdered. Uh, my godson, LaDanya Jordan's son, Sam, he got murdered,
Mm-hmm.
and his daughter got shot down with him. Uh, I had two homeboys get murdered in prison. They caught time that was associated with gang banging and selling dope around us, and they were kin to the Edwards,
Mm-hmm.
the Prince family.
Mm-hmm.
Little D-Row, that was Lori Edwards' son. He got killed in prison. He had 20 years, and he was on his way home after doing 20 years and got killed inside the prison. So, like after you losing all these kids around me, and then just going through all that, like that's what got me to the point to where I came home, I got strung out on drugs, and I had to see all these parents and these people that I grew up with, and knowing that these kids was associated with all this stuff.
Yeah.
Because at that point, when I was using drugs and feeling all that pain, it was from all that. But I didn't know how to be strong and what I should do to do the right thing. And
Right.
when I went back this last time, that was where I got to that point where God was like,
I
I
got
need to
you.
do that. If I'm gonna be in Colombia, I need to do that. And it's been a struggle within that year, but that was where I got to the point to like, man, if I get a chance to get out, this is what I'm gonna do. And I started writing that program, the
Mm-hmm.
program that I have in the business that I got right now called Just Us Can Free
Mm-hmm.
Us. And that's the reason why I named it that, because I know that now, what I'm saying, the knowledge that I know on how this government operates, the politics, the system, the history,
Mm-hmm.
that only we can free ourselves.
That's true. Got it. I got it. I really appreciate you being transparent because coming from home and like you said, hearing we are a close knit community.
Mm-hmm.
Columbia is what it is. We have our families, every family, you come from a large family just like I do. We all
Mm-hmm.
are, our parents were connected and that
Yep,
generation was really connected.
that's right.
So to for you to share your your transformation, uh, people would look at you and say, yep, dude caused a lot of pain. And you've already acknowledged that, and what you
Yeah,
guys were
yeah, for
doing,
sure.
it's a lot of pain. How do you handle now it, the guilt, or do you have guilt, or the um, any regrets?
Well, at one point I did, you know what I'm saying? But as I started learning more, you know what I'm saying, about like for real who I am as a person and what I deal with my own mental health and all that stuff, what is called as trauma bonding. So a lot of times I get caught up into doing that, but it's really not good because I have
No.
to stay professional, you know what I'm saying? And what I do is I take a lot of classes and stuff. You know, I've took like classes like adverse childhood experiences, and these put me in a position to be able to understand myself more and to be able to
Mhm.
teach somebody else to understand why we have certain stuff wrong with us. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And then I can let them know that, hey, I'm not telling you it's something wrong with you because we both got the same issues or the same stuff that we done been through in life, which causes this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you how I've learned how to deal with it and what I learned that can help us deal with it and we can manage it better so we can be productive people in society and be able to teach our kids and stuff like that better. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
we out here struggling our people and they working hard and they don't really have a lot of time to really put into their children. And then these children are being directed and growing up off of what they see off the neighborhood or the internet or the TV or the music and all that, and they not being raised right. So it's even creating even more dysfunction into our communities and neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
people are not growing because even some of these parents, you know what I'm saying, come from that era and they'll fall into the same trap. And it's just something
A
that
cycle.
all the older people of the generation are gonna just have to step up. And there's so many older people that are scared of these youngsters. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they'll just rather just keep their distance and not deal with it, you
Mm-hmm.
know, than to even try to help the situation. But that's the worstest thing that we can do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's you shared earlier, you shared your life, you shared your experience in life. It streets are streets, but survival, it becomes like a survival. And then our generation, our
Yeah.
generation and what we have experienced. Um, I say that because obviously you have transformed, you've healed, and you're ready to take on the responsibility, and you have taken on um, in you've taken on responsibility for your life, but you're going the extra mile. This is the point I'm trying to make. You're going the extra mile, to help others. Your program and you're a nonprofit, you've had some help. People have um, helped you along the way. How important is it to keep positive people around you?
Well, most definitely, that's the most important thing. And then staying busy. I gotta make sure that I make my day productive as possible and try to make sure that I'm staying in the right direction. But being around positive people is the most important thing because that's how I'm gonna learn to be able to get to the next level to do the work that I'm doing. Because there's so much stuff that I don't know. I don't have time really to really be around or nobody that I used to be doing stuff with because I'm always busy working and at meetings and dealing with my kids and stuff of that nature that consists of really just trying to be a productive man. You know what I mean? Rarely
Yeah,
do I have much time to really kick it or enjoy myself, as we would call it, have a good time. And then with me only being home for a year, I'm still trying to put myself in an income base to where I can even do stuff to enjoy
yeah,
myself in life. You know what I mean? I'm not really making a lot of money at this point, you know, off of doing this. I do
right.
make some money off of some contracts that I have, and you know, we're looking at other avenues for doors to open, and it's prospective stuff that's on the table, but it's still not there. So I still got to survive off of what I got going on and try to manage everything that I got going on. And also, I'm going to CDL school so I can acquire my Class A CDLs and put that under my belt because I got some friends and stuff that I was doing time with in federal, and now they came home and they doing that, and they're doing real good. They're doing like $20,000 a month driving their own trucks,
Mhm.
so they in a living where they can take care of their families and put themselves in a position to be able to take care of themselves and not have the thoughts to even be in that type of life anymore.
Yeah, and that's what it takes. I know it's, and I'm saying that because I know that the transition isn't. easy, isn't always easy. You have linked up with some organizations there in Colombia, correct?
Well, I'm working with the City of Columbia Office of Violence Prevention, and then we're also working with the National Institute of Criminal Justice Reform. So the National Institute of Criminal Justice Reform is connected with Washington, D.C. and like Baltimore and that area out there. And I think it was formed maybe in California or something somewhere, but it's connected to like politics in DC and things of that nature. So they had contracts with the government to basically implement a new system, ecosystem to where they are working together. And this is how they was able to implement what my department does, which is called street outreach.
Okay.
So they were able to come back and use people as community liaisons with lived experience. And it opened up the doors for people with felonies and histories like me to be able to work with the government and the state and all that to do this work. You know what I'm saying? Because they open up that avenue because now they know from the way that things is in order for them to solve the problem. The thing is now those closely related to the problem or those closely related to the solution. So they
Right.
using people like me who was right out here with these dudes doing this stuff with them to talk to them because they can use the level of street respect that I got in the streets. You know what I'm saying? For me to be able to get that close to their comfort zone to be able to communicate with them.
Yeah.
Because a lot
Yeah.
of these people they scared that most of these guys that I'm dealing with, they really high risk individuals, and really they like the type of individuals that really the police and the community really have counted them out as a lost cause because they don't really understand what they're going through or how to deal with it. But it's
Right.
passing down to their kids and stuff
Mhm.
like that, and now it's going inside the Columbia public schools and the juvenile systems. And then you have these professional people that got these doctor degrees and all that, and they understand mental health to a certain degree, but they don't really understand our kids though
Yeah. I get it. I get
to
it.
help them.
And that's where I was going with it. So commendable. I mean, much love and respect to you, honestly. So much love and
Yeah, for
respect
sure.
to
Thank you.
you. Um, I'm here for you, whatever you need from me. My platform is your platform. Is there
Mhm.
anything else you'd like to share with us? I mean, again, just to be so transparent. You don't have to. I mean, and you do.
I'm just blessed that I ran into you and you gave me the opportunity to put me on your platform because I have been following your stuff because I do know you from so long, and
Yeah,
I'm like, man, I would see all the stuff that you got going on and the people that you deal with, and it kind of like, it relates to what I'm doing, and it's just ways
for
that we can
sure.
open up channels to do business and people network, because we got people all over doing this stuff,
For
and we
sure.
all trying to make different doors open for each other, and just hopefully, maybe it's can blemish into some type of business relationship because all of the stuff that you do applies to the stuff that we doing with these nonprofits because it's dealing with the community and helping them to grow mentally and teaching them stuff like you do with your beauty shows and all the stuff that you do. And this is just stuff that we need to get our people involved in so they can look at other avenues to educate themselves and have fun and grow as people.
Yeah, and I'm loving it. I'm loving. Thank you so much. I'm loving the fact, the healing. People are able to see, that all that you've come through, that there's another side, and you did the work. You did the work to get to the other side, of healing. That is, I mean, that's just, to me, so impressive within itself. And I know you credit it. I credit back to that grandma's prayer. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I credit to that grandma's prayer, man. I tell you, they would that
that's that's
that
that's probably what kept me alive so long.
oh, it kept you alive, put you to the other side. I mean, my
Real.
grandpa, my grandpa, he'd stomp all over the church, all
I
over
remember
St.
we used to go ride them horses out there with your family and everything. I was the only family I seen black people with horses when I was coming up. That was exciting, you know what I mean? Like,
I
Yeah,
know.
we got some history. We got some good history around here these kids don't know about.
Oh gosh, the same place. So with that being said, I mean, whenever I get a chance to talk to home and then just see, I, again, just highly respect what you're doing and just continue to. We're going to continue this journey. Continue to do what you're doing. You know, I got you.
Yes, ma'am.
I know you all. I know you have me, your family. Love your family.
Yep,
So,
yep.
anything else you'd like to share with us before we end?
No, that's it. For real, I just like to thank you, for giving me your time,
You're welcome.
Really do appreciate that. It's a blessing.
And thank you. Thank you for being who you are, and thank you for standing and being having a heart for our community. We grew up with that, though, right? I almost say it pretty
For
much
sure.
every time I get a chance to be on the show. I mean, I come from a community that people put their arms around us, like Johnny Cooper, like Kenneth
Man,
Bradley, and all of
the
those
Miss
guys. Your
Wanda
dad,
Fay.
your dad,
Yeah.
I mean, he was there with that too. So it's in us. It's in us.
Yep.
And I'm just glad that we are doing what we're doing with our lives right now. So, well, you guys heard it. You heard it from my dear friend Ronald Brown. Are we calling you Ron? Ronald? I've always
Yeah,
called
most
you
definitely. I got to go by my government. I just use Ronald Brown.
Ronald Brown. Ronald Brown.
That's it.
You heard it from my good friend.
Everybody around her got different names for me, so no telling what they might pull up on me and call me Little Ronnie or Elwood or whatever. So,
Yeah, it's all good. I can't wait to see you. I'll be home in a couple weeks, so I'm hoping I
oh
will
yeah, for
run into
sure.
you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We
that'd be nice. And
just
that way I could get a hold of this recording or something. You know what I mean?
yes,
So I could be able to see it back.
for sure. You're gonna do that. Yeah, have lunch or
All right.
something. Have lunch and we'll
Yeah, for
continue.
sure. Yeah.
And then
All
and
right.
those babies, give those babies my love.
I will. I will.
Well, you guys have heard it. This is the Anna Lindsay Show, and I am here with my good friend Ronald Brown. Thank you for sharing your story, guys. You can watch us everywhere. The Anna Lindsay Show. See you soon.
All right.